In today's video, I will be talking about the best metal albums of July 2023. As always, this will be only metal albums. I reviewed a few non-metal albums like Greta Van Fleet, and that will not be included. I usually do about 15, but this month I only have 12, so let's get into this. At number 12, I have Bloodbound Tales from the North. This is a power metal band. They are not reinventing the wheel. It's just power metal with cheesy lyrics about Norse mythology and dragons and things. This band is consistent. They release an album about every 2 years. This is the type of music I would call European power metal with both guitars and keyboards. I would compare them to bands like Sabaton or Stratovarius. The music is very catchy. There's fast-paced drumming and melodic guitars. They even wear outrageous costumes, and the singer has horns on his head. Super cheesy, but fun nonetheless. At number 11, I have Voyager with Fearless in Love. This was one of those bands that I never heard of before listening to this album, but I thought it was pretty good. It was like new wave from the 80s, but mixed with progressive metal. I happen to have a soft spot for new wave music of the 80s because that was what I grew up on. At first I thought it was kind of weird, but this band is unique. The songs were kind of catchy, and they went in different directions. Some of my favorite songs were The Best Intentions. This one has some new wave keyboards and heavy metalcore style guitar riffs. Dreamer was a song that sounded like Depeche Mode with an electronic and danceable beat, but they added heavy guitar riffs. Then there's a song, Twisted, that has some softer sounds with heavier guitar riffs. Again, a lot of those guitar riffs. So I think if you're somebody looking for something different, it's a pretty cool band. They're hard to put into a category, but the music is pretty cool. At number 10, I have The Night Eternal with Fatale. This was one of those albums that I listened to when it came out. I thought it was pretty cool. Then I forgot about it, but I recently saw a few other videos mentioning it, so I decided to give it another listen. This is a band that's hard to categorize. I guess you can call it traditional heavy metal. It has a dark sound and evokes images of old Hammer horror movies. They also have a goth sound similar to bands like Bauhaus or New Order or Echo and the Bunnymen. The vocals are similar to Danzig. Some of my favorite songs are Prince of Darkness with the galloping guitars and dark atmosphere. We Praise Death had a classic heavy metal sound with distorted guitar riffs and a dark sound. Stars Guide My Way reminded me a lot of Danzig. It had a mix of punk and metal. Overall, this was a cool album, and the band is very unique. At number 9, I have Bang with Another Me. This is an album that I discovered by chance. The band has been around since the early 70s. They're possibly the first American metal band, and they were called America's answer to Black Sabbath. They had a popular album in 1972, a self-titled album that was considered to be proto-metal classic and one of the first doom metal bands. Here they are over 50 years later with another album. It sounds like it came from right out of the 70s. There are a lot of cool guitar riffs and classic metal sounds. The title track was cool, the riffs were great, and it reminded me of like Blue Oyster Cult. Clouds had a classic metal guitar riff similar to a new wave of British heavy metal bands. Overall, this album surprised me. I wasn't expecting it. At number 8, I have Mutoid Man with Mutants. This was an album that I just reviewed. It was another one that I wasn't expecting, and I found them by chance. This is a three-piece band consisting of members of Cave-In, Converge, and High on Fire. There are a lot of sludgy guitar riffs, and they reminded me of bands like Voivod, Monster Magnet, and Mastodon. The songs were also catchy. It was kind of the type of album that grows on you upon repeat listens. Call of the Void was a single with great music video. Frozen Hearts was pretty cool with complex guitar riffs and time signature changes. Siren Song was a very catchy song with a chorus that will stick in your head. Graveyard Love was another cool song that was kind of dark with some punk rock energy. This band is pretty cool, and it was a surprise for me. At number 7, I have Sevendust with Truth Killer. This was another album that just came out. They are one of the few bands from the nu metal era that was able to survive They are a very consistent band and they have evolved over the years. They still play heavy rock music. Sometimes they can be very mellow and atmospheric, such as the first song, I Might Let the Devil Win. But they end with a song that's really heavy called Fence. The vocals are amazing. Lajon Witherspoon really makes this band. I really like the song Holy Water. It was one of the singles, but it's a super catchy song with heavy and light parts. Then there is Leave Hell Behind, the song with some atmospheric sounds and softer vocals. It's a good album that grows on you after repeat listens. It may have ranked higher if I had more time with it, but for now I still have it fairly high on this list. At number 6 is Girlschool with WTF45. This is an all-female heavy metal band that has been around for 45 years, hence the name WTF45. I've actually never listened to this band while I was growing up and getting into heavy metal, but I had known about them and I knew they were some type of sister band of Motorhead, if you want to call them that. I know they have toured together and I think they recorded an album together. I went into this without really knowing the band and I was pleasantly surprised. It was classic heavy metal, but it was also very catchy. The songs were very memorable and they kind of had this punk rock attitude, but it was also kind of poppy. So there were a few songs that reminded me of like the band The Go-Go's from the 80s, and there was another song that reminded me of Alice Cooper. They had a song called Invisible Killer, which was about the pandemic, which was probably the only serious song in the album. The rest of the songs were just about the rock and roll lifestyle and having a good time. This was an enjoyable album. That's why I have it ranked right here. My number 5 from this band, Cavalier Conspiracy, or I think they just call it Cavalera. But anyway, it's a re-recording. The first of 2 re-recordings on this list. It was the first EP and first album back when Max and Igor Cavalera were in the band Sepultura. The original EP and original album had a very lo-fi production, and the band didn't have a lot of money back then, and they didn't speak English very well. But the songwriting was there, so they decided to just record it again, and I thought it was a good idea. I actually enjoyed the EP Bestial Devastation better than Morbid Visions, but for the purposes of the video, I haven't ranked both right here. I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of Sepultura.
Unknown, where dimensions collide and secrets unveil.
At number 4, I have Morgöth Tales by Voivod. This is another re-recording. The band released this album as a celebration of 40 years of the band's existence. It includes re-recordings of songs from their older albums between the years 1986 and 2003. They chose 1 song per album. They even got a few band members to return, such as Eric Forrest and Jason Newsted. So this is just a very good album because the production is very clean. It's similar to the production from their album last year, which was called Synchro Anarchy, and they chose a selection of songs which they considered to be deep cuts, and I thought it was a good selection of songs, so for that reason I have it ranked right here. At number 3, I have Blackbraid II by Blackbraid. This is a one-man metal band, and the man behind this is a Native American, so out of the million subgenres of black metal, you can add Native American black metal to that list. This was also featured in a New York Times article, so it was the first time black metal was kind of going mainstream, but I enjoyed this album a lot. I'm not a big black metal fan, as I have said many times in the past, but I think it was an album with a lot of thought put into the songs. The lyrics were more about nature and not about the devil or things like that. It was also melodic. I think this was the type of album that some black metal fans did not like because they didn't like the clean production or just enjoy more of that traditional sound, but I thought it was pretty good and deserving of spot number 3.
I await and fear the unknown.
At number 2, I have Evile with the Unknown, and this is a controversial pick because a lot of people hated this album because most of the album consisted of slow songs, and people also said they were trying to release their version of Metallica's Black Album again. But for those of you who don't know, this band has always sounded like Metallica. They just chose to slow it down for this album. This is more of a personal pick, I guess. I really enjoyed every song on the album. There were 2 traditional thrash metal songs. I think they were tracks number 5 and number 9, or the last one on the album. And the rest of the songs had more of that stripped down approach that was similar to Metallica's Black Album. But I am a big fan of 90s music, and I like this album. So for that reason, I have it here. At number 1, I have the Zenith Passage with Datalysium, and this was a surprise for me because I never listened to this band before. I just discovered this band when they came out, and this is a technical death metal band, which is one of those subgenres that I don't always gravitate to, because I feel that on the one hand, these bands are very technical and virtuosic, and the guitar players can play a million notes a minute, and it's really impressive and all, but sometimes the songs are just not memorable. But this band, they were able to balance the technicality, the heaviness, and the memorability of the guitar riffs and the songs in general. So for that reason, I have it at number 1. I think it's a great album if you're not really into technical death metal. I think this might be a good starting point for you, I guess. But that is all. That's it. Give me your top 10 list in the comments section. Let me know if there's anything I missed. I'm sure there were a lot of albums. I don't always get a chance to listen to everything. So I appreciate your input. Please like this video. It helps me with the algorithm. Please subscribe and check out last month's Best Metal Albums of June video. And I will see you in the next one.